Alrighty, guys. So here we go. This is the big news that came out today. Let me move my head so you can see the rest of it. Final Fantasy maker Square Enix has stated they will aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy after their profits have tumbled. A lot of these publicly traded companies, they give a lot of their information for financials. And today was Sony's turn. And so they released their financial year-end documents. The year ended in, obviously, so a lot of companies in Japan, Capcom, Square Enix, several others, their financial year-end is March of 2020. Well, March of every year. And because it's March 2024, we finally have their numbers. So here's some details on it. So basically what is here, this is from a person on Twitter, but I did confirm from the actual documents. You can look them up yourselves. All the information is for real, just fine. But the real information is net sales have gone up by 13 billion yen, which is a lot of money. However, operating costs have gone really up as well. And as a result, they've only made a certain level of inroads in certain things. What does this mean? This means profits are down year over year. This is actually from Sony's own information. This is not from me. It's from Sony. Profits are down year over year for major game releases. That means Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, compared to Remake last year. And this also means Final Fantasy 16. This also means mobile games, massively lower for mobile games, specifically MMOs and games of smart devices and PC browser. And also it includes Final Fantasy 14. So the numbers of costs have far outpaced the number that they're making year over year in actual profits because of expenditures going up and also sales going up, but not nearly in the numbers that they wanted. So as a result, they've decided to stop doing as many exclusives for PlayStation. For PlayStation only. This is mostly going to affect PlayStation, but this also means they have a lot of exclusives they put on the Switch. They're going to stop doing that. They're going to start putting far more multi-platform initiatives for all kinds of games, for all kinds of markets. So we're going to have a lot more PC games for Square Enix. We're going to have a lot more Switch games that were on, PlayStation. We might be seeing a lot more remakes for Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy VII, OG, maybe they're going to do a lot more remasters. There's a lot of hints of what may be coming from above. And it's really weird because their sales numbers have gone up. However, and we can read this actually right here. This is directly from their own financial documents. They want to diversify earnings opportunities by strengthening customer contact points. What that means is 4 situations here. A shift to a multi-platform strategy. For HD titles, from what I could gather, HD, they didn't really give a definition or anything. HD basically means first-party titles, like something that costs a lot of money to make. The group will aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. We might have Final Fantasy on Xbox, which is crazy, and PCs, especially in regards to major franchises and AAA titles, including catalog titles. It will build an environment where more customers can enjoy our titles. In addition, it'll also devise a platform strategy for SD titles. That I think those are the lower scale, lower graphically powerful games, things like that. And then this could include remakes for these older Final Fantasy beloved games, which would really not cost that much to port because the game's already made. That includes not only iOS and Android, but also the possibility of PC launches. I don't know about you, but I would love to have more, classic Squaresoft games onto PC, onto everywhere. Because This is a thing where it is bad news for Square Enix and is bad news for Sony. Sony basically tried to force Square Enix to be mostly onto their platform, especially for their first party releases, for a very, very long time. And they've been paying Square Enix, and they had this business strategy where they kept Square Enix onto just Sony. Guess what? It didn't pan out. Having console exclusivity is a bad thing for gamers, and now it's become a bad thing for the markets as well. It's become a bad thing for the companies doing these. That's a good thing for gamers because it's going to force Square Enix in this case to release their games multi-platform. The more platforms that games can be allowed on for all of us, the better it is. Gamers don't have to get a PS5 just to be able to play the hottest new Final Fantasy game. This is great for everyone except the massive, massive Sony fanboys who are super salty right now. And let me tell you, their tears taste great. The second point is building continuous customer contact points for our titles by stepping up digital sales. Now, I'm a little worried about this one. I'll explain why. Group will strengthen user flow of digital sales of new titles at the time of launch regarding the initiatives for promotion. In addition, it'll generate the opportunity for generating revenue in our rich catalog title lineup. This is the part I'm worried about, and I'll explain why. Which leads to strengthen its earning base by expanding sales of catalog titles. Moreover, the group will engage in initiatives which focus on the acquisition of PC users. Now, in some ways, this is good. That means they're going to focus more on marketing to try to reach broader audiences. They're going to try to probably focus a bit more on localization to make sure, like, places in other countries that they're able to reach out. This also means they're probably not going to require PSN login, like a lot of these games do for cross-platform now for Sony, because that supremely limits the player base that they can possibly reach. This is antithesis to what Square Enix wants here. The other thing that is a negative here is that who here remembers Sony's big push 2 years ago? Square Enix's big push about 2, 3, 4 years ago that they started, because this was a major issue. What was Square Enix trying to make money on? Fucking NFTs. And so what they're trying to talk about right here is taking a known user base of people buying their catalog titles. Catalog titles means their Final Fantasy 16s, their Final Fantasy 14s. They're like their major big titles. And they're trying to squeeze more money out of each one of those titles. This is what this second paragraph means. Half of it means this. And I have no doubt that they are capable and wanting to make another push into NFTs. They've made that very, very clear. And that is going to suck. And that is going to be something to watch out for. And if Square Enix does this, I think it'll blow up in their face even more, as it did the first time, and hopefully it will the second time. This is something that none of us want. No single gamer out there really wants NFTs, especially in the form that they are now. But that's because NFTs are just a fucking scam. Diddles, how are you doing, buddy? I hope you're doing well. The third point is create an interaction with customers and by increasing sophistication of publishing function. The group will pursue integrated sales and marketing operations in Japan and make efficacy of publishing by consolidating the marketing functions that were previously spread across creative business units. Basically, what they're saying is that they have too many different broad-based marketing teams that are kind of all doing the same job, and they're not doing a good job of it. So they're kind of wanting to cut those teams down into fewer teams that are going to do a better job. They want more efficiency there. So there's going to be some firings at Square Enix in this way. But what this also means is that they're going to try to work with, more multi-platforms to, I guess, let people know that they're releasing their games multi-platform now, which is going to be really, really, really good. So this is all around a plus. Increases sophistication in marketing by leveraging first-party data. This is a little worrying because, when you are when a company talks about first-party data, that means all of our data. They want to use our data to try to do shit with it. Sometimes, and hopefully this means that they're just going to try to figure out what games we want, send us better targeted ads, things like that. That's the best thing this could possibly mean. Worst case scenario is, a PSN style situation where they try to, create their own launcher and try to take our data more, do far reaching shit like that. Companies like to do this all the time because guess what? Data is valuable. That's why Sony is literally destroying money in order to try to force people to log on to PSN, which is the PlayStation Network, because our data is that valuable. It's more valuable to them in a lot of times more than money. At first, they thought they could get away with it, and they did for Sony players of PlayStation, but now they're trying to reach into PC, trying to do the exact same thing because they want PC data as well. The last point here is generating the opportunity of new revenue by offering IP across a range of entertainment experiences. This is the W. This is another W right here. Cross-media strategy capable of approaching new markets. Specifically, it will expand the area of licensed business by establishing new department focusing on IP business development in global markets. In addition, it'll build an organization which makes more active use of its IP by offering it across all media formats. The group also hopes to generate synergies by integrating the organizations affiliated with this merchandising segment. What this means is a few different things. I don't know if you ever tried to buy Sony merchandise, but it is goddamned near next to impossible. I know because I wanted a Chocobo plushie. It's really hard to get a Chocobo plushie. It's very expensive. It's a lot of shipping costs because they only sell it in certain areas, and it's not easy. So we might be seeing more merchandise, which is good. I think that's a great way to grow because Final Fantasy was one of the most well made and universally loved game series of all time, most recognizable ones. That would be a great way for Square. Sorry, I said Sony again. Square Enix and Sony have been synonymous almost with each other for a very long time. So it's going to take my brain a little bit to catch up verbiage-wise with that. But yeah, Square Enix, I think, would make a lot of money by focusing a little bit more on merchandising. Also, the new markets means they're going to try to, I think, create more new IPs with, PC markets, trying to create games for PC, trying to create games that are centered around the Nintendo Switch, trying to, not have exclusivity with Nintendo for games like, God, what was it called? I think it was Triangle Strategy, right? I think that was Switch only. Things like that. There was several games that they released on Switch. Is there a list of Square Enix exclusives with Switch? Because a lot of people know about the PlayStation games that are exclusive.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own.
Nice. How you doing, Jim? I hope you're doing well, buddy. We miss you. We're covering some great news. What was I saying though? My brain completely forgot. Right. A lot of people know about exclusivity with Sony, with PlayStation. However, a lot of people don't really know about how many exclusives they have with the Nintendo Switch. It's also very clear another major trend in the gaming markets has been that games cost way too much freaking money. And I think Square Enix is realizing it. They've spent so much money making Final Fantasy 16, and while I love Final Fantasy 16, it didn't sell nearly in the numbers that they needed it to in order to make a really huge profit, which they want. And that's totally fine. Game companies want that. Same thing with Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth actually sold far fewer titles and far fewer boxes than Final Fantasy 7 Remake did. It's a sequel. It was less accessible because you had to play the entire first game. The release schedule is weird because they split up a beloved normal game into 3 different games, which is already a bit cash grabby. And the development costs for both of those games have skyrocketed compared to previous titles of theirs. Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy all these other first party games from Square Enix were much less expensive to make. And it's just not worth it to them. What they're trying to discuss, there's a lot of detail on this, talking about like their year plans and everything. I could do a little bit of discussion in here, but this is actually another pillar right here that's really interesting. Enhance productivity by optimizing development footprint in the digital entertainment segment. That means, all of their digital selling games, the ones that they sell on Steam, the ones that they sell on the Sony networks, the ones that they sell on, everything between. And it says focus on development of titles delivering fun. And I love how they put the quote. You can't see this. Let me move my head. This is like a particularly fun, like, oh, we just want to focus on fun. And I think they realize that like doing bleeding, cutting edge graphics and stuff, it doesn't really make them that much money anymore. Like it's not really worth it to spend hundreds of millions of dollars because you need to sell like a certain crazy high number of units in order to make back your money and make a good tidy profit. It just doesn't make sense to do that anymore. The reason that they have more sales and less profit is because their costs have gone way up. So if they focus on, the more double A, single A level games and make more of those, this is what I've been saying that game makers need to do in general. But now they're really starting to think of this with these specific game companies. They're like, Square Enix switching to this model is a huge thing. That means we get more games. And hopefully games that focus on actual just fun, actual just quality, actual just, storytelling, gameplay, these kinds of major pillars of gaming, as opposed to just making it look like the nicest thing ever. And while I love nice looking games, that's great, but it shouldn't be the only thing a game company focuses on. And that is one major reason that all of these games are costing more. I think, what is it, like GTA 6 is already costed $2 billion of development, which is absolutely bonkers. Like it's freaking crazy, the level of cost that has. But yeah, so I think these are some major trends, and this should also tell the entire gaming landscape. Console exclusivity. I've been saying this for years. The console exclusivity is a relic of the past. No company should be console exclusive anymore. When anything is console exclusive, gamers lose. And this is for any game. Remember that game that was going to be their game for the next 10 years? Which one do you mean, Diddles? I don't know which one you mean. And Existential says, it doesn't help that their $70 price tag has segregated so many gamers. That's true. That's absolutely true. Gamers finding fantastic titles on the indie scene thanks to far more reachable price tag in comparison to big AAAs. Yes, and this is a major thing. This is why people didn't buy Final Fantasy 16 in such high numbers. This is why people didn't buy Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth in such high numbers. There's so many barriers of entry into all of those games. Someone sees, like, okay, anyone who sees Final Fantasy 16 while being a person who's played a lot of Final Fantasy games, they dodge a lot of these barriers. Because, like, you see the 16 in the tag, and you don't have to really worry about it because, you know all the games are standalone. Typical gamers are not the ones watching this YouTube video. They're not the ones watching my Twitch stream. They're not the ones playing Final Fantasy 16 and all these other first-party titles of, like, really high quality, spending $70 on day one, pre-ordering the game, pre-ordering the Ultimate Edition, all that bullshit. They're the ones that see 16 and think, oh my god, I need to play 15 other games in order to play this game. That sounds dumb to perhaps you and I, but that is how, like, the typical gamer thinks. I think they're trying to also create some more games that are not just Final Fantasy games. Because Final Fantasy, while having a large player base, is also a little bit unapproachable for, like, the typical gamer. And I think they're trying to create some more games for that typical gamer. There's going to be the next. Oh yeah, GTA. Yeah, the GTA. Like, a lot of times these flagship games for these game makers are just like going to be their game for the next 10 years and nothing else. We saw that with GTA 5 diddles. Like, I don't know if you were memeing, but like, it is true. This is exactly what they did for GTA 5. This is exactly, I mean, to be fair, Final Fantasy 14 has this where they have made it a games as a service correctly, and it makes a lot of money. It has its own like cash shop. It has this and that, which makes it a recurring revenue. But we don't have the numbers for FF14 on here. But they did make it very clear that their mobile titles and their games of service titles, of which they don't have that many, has lost money. The other big loss leader for them was the Foam Stars game, which was like going to be Foam Stars. There it is. The one, what was that called? What's the one where it's on Nintendo Switch and you basically shoot ink out? It was their answer to that game. And the Foam Stars was literally that. And it did not make money at all. Splatoon. Thank you. Sorry. I had the picture in my head. I couldn't think of the name. Yeah. Foam Stars was Square Enix's response and Sony's response. Because they did it in conjunction. It was a Sony exclusive. No one fucking bought it. No one played it. And it was a game as a service that looked cool. It looked interesting. I thought it looked cute. But I didn't buy it, and it's because it costed too much money, and it just did not compare to Splatoon. And it was just a worse game all around. So no one fucking bought it, and they lost a whole boatload of money on it. And the development for that game costed a decent amount as well. But yeah, significant operating costs. A loss of $51 million is actually huge. It's huge. And so, yeah, HD Games encompasses Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, 16, and Foam Stars, and Pixel Remaster. Now, the Pixel Remaster was like a ground-up remaster, and it just did not sell nearly as much. I think this probably didn't cost nearly as much. I think their biggest loss leaders, we don't have these specific numbers, but I think so, was on definitely on Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Rebirth. They did have messages from like the president of Square Enix saying that they were unhappy with the performance of Final Fantasy 16 after the first several months it was out. We didn't hear any numbers after that. And we didn't hear any numbers whatsoever from Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. That's a bad sign. If you hear no numbers from a company, that means they're not happy about the numbers. They love to share good news because it raises their stock. Let's see. Yeah, Square Enix was announced as a sales figure for Final Fantasy 16, yet to do so for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. That's what I was trying to say. In its financial report, all Square Enix would say was that it suffered from an incomplete journey to better profitability in HD game development, which is corporate talk for, we spent a lot of money to make this game, and while we did make some money, it is profitable, it's just not profitable enough because we expected and we needed to sell it in much, much higher numbers than it's sold at. And frankly, we shouldn't be a console exclusive anymore. That's literally what that means. Okay. Oh, yeah, there we go. Here's the next quote. Launched many titles, but some failed to live up to profit expectations, especially outsourced titles and some AAAs. Yeah, so like IGN is saying correctly here, it seems very likely Rebirth is included in that. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, yeah. It has a special plan. It called this Square Enix Reboots and Awakens. So this is not part of the stuff that I was able to read. So this is actually really, really cool. A 3-year plan for rebooting for long-term growth. Guess what? They're going to be launching some reboots as well with this. That definitely, they love to have these puns where they talk about these things in kind of like a double entendre level. But yeah, I'll check that Dark Shade. Maybe that's some new development. But yeah, as of when I recorded that video, it was not. So yeah. Let's see. We already read this. It'll build an environment where more customers can enjoy our titles. The suggestion in all of this is that mainline Final Fantasy games will ditch PlayStation exclusivity moving forward. Though Square Enix has yet to announce specifics beyond Final Fantasy XVI's upcoming launch at PC. I think launching it as like a timed exclusive also is a thing of the past. Timed exclusives have never really been a real like major thing. that has helped any game. It's only helped the consoles. And also, yeah, this is a major thing. Shift from quantity to quality, delivering ensured fun. Square Enix has been accused of pumping out too many Final Fantasy games in too short of a time frame. So perhaps this means that the release of major Final Fantasy games will be spaced out a bit more. That makes more sense. That absolutely makes more sense. But yeah, with this, they also actually had to cancel several games, which amounted to $140 million loss. So that actually ate into their profits an absolute massive amount, but they did not really say which games those were. So we'll see how it goes. The Dawn Trail is upcoming. I think they'll be able to make some money on that. Final Fantasy 14 has a bunch of rabid fans, and I get told I need to play it more all the time. I will. Don't worry. But I think we're going to see a lot more like single launch games as well. I think they're going to be going a little bit away from releasing so many Final Fantasy games. They're going to be releasing some like single department games where like it doesn't have like a number title. It's not going to be like Kingdom Hearts. It's not going to be Final Fantasy. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be that. It's going to be just a standalone game. And I think they're going to try to create some new franchises from the beginning, because those are genuinely, if they're well made, much more accessible for the average gamer. This is good news for us. More games of high quality, more games on every platform. And I think you guys are in for a treat in the next few years. So we'll see how it goes. I hope you guys liked the video. Definitely give it a like, give it a sub, share it with your friends. I do cover a lot of business stuff like this, gaming business. I have a particular background in it, so we have a lot of fun. And we love to cover all kinds of good news, all kinds of bad news, all kinds of questionable news. And I'll always give you the real, no bullshit answer and response. There we go.